Welcome to the Circuit of Success Podcast.
The Circuit of Success Podcast.
With your host, Brett
Gilliland. Brett Gilliland, Visionary Wealth Advisory.
The Circuit of Success Podcast. Let's start the show.
Hello to our listeners and welcome to today's episode of the Fieldswell Podcast. It is an honor to introduce Brett Gilliland, CEO and founding visionary of Visionary Wealth Advisors. Brett is the host of the Circuit of Success Podcast, a top entrepreneur podcast, which I'm grateful to have been a guest on a couple months back. Beyond his professional achievements, Brett is deeply committed to charitable work. He and his wife, Julie, founded Swing for Hope, an organization supporting cancer research and patients. Brett, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Lauren. Good to be with you.
Thank you. It's such a pleasure. I was just saying, now we get to turn the tables and I get to interview you. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Yes, absolutely.
We originally connected over a Jesse Itzler mastermind, and he is so fantastic. You know, the first time I saw him speak, it was at Aspire Tour in San Diego, and he had a DJ with him DJing his talk.
I've seen those videos. That's amazing.
Yeah, it was really cool. So to start, I'd love for you to give us a brief overview of your life so we can start to get a feel for how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, absolutely. I grew up in a small town in Illinois called Mattoon, Illinois. And so town of about, 18,000 people, something like that. Middle of central Illinois, lots of cornfields, but a great place to be raised. And I'm an only child. And so went to college and then graduated college. And my girlfriend, fiance at the time, now my wife, we decided to move to St. Louis. So I've been in St. Louis for, since 2001, so 23 years, and have 4 kids and 4 boys, which is crazy. And my oldest is getting ready to go to college. So we've got that whole emotion going in the next 34 days, not that I'm counting. But yeah, so just grew up again with, an only child and with a family that, allowed me to dream and think and, believe in myself. And I think when you're an only child, you can get bored pretty easily. And my parents, always would just tell me, well, go be creative, go do something. And I think that's what's helped me become an entrepreneur and a business owner and do the things that we do today.
Amazing. Well, I can align with that. I also grew up an only child with parents who too gave me a long leash and let me kind of follow my dream and my vision. And there were times where I wanted them to be like point blank, do this or do that, but they really let me explore. And now I'm thankful because I feel like what I've created has been wholeheartedly my vision and my dream. So yeah.
I couldn't agree more.
So I know you grew up in a banking family and you worked in banking in college, then went on, realized your passion was more in helping people achieve their goals and dreams.
That's right.
Then you went on to be managing director at Northwestern Mutual for 13 years.
Yep.
Can you describe the moment you realized you wanted to start your own wealth management firm?
Yeah, it was a few years, in my mind. I was, trying to fight with my mind as my success was going up, my satisfaction was going down. And I thought, I'm too young. I was in my early 30s to mid 30s when this was happening. I'm like, this is not the way I want to live life and be miserable. Right. And so, but I knew I loved the industry. I loved what we did. I loved how we served clients. And so I just kept coming back to this thing called an RIA, Registered Investment Advisor, during my research. And, I went to a meeting that I qualified for at Northwestern, and, I would ask people what keeps them there. Why are they happy? And I never got like an answer that really, worked. And so for me, it was like, all right, this isn't clicking. And so I went back to those RIA research days and I said, I got to start my own deal. I love building businesses. I love building a brand. I love serving our community. I love helping people. And so for me, it was, I got to do this. And I called a guy that I trusted and respected. And I said to him, hey, what keeps you here? And 4.5 hours later, we got off the telephone, and about 82 or 92 days later, we started our own firm. And now 10 years later, here we are. And it was one of those things, as I was an anxious kid growing up, and I was dealing with anxiety and I didn't know why, because I didn't feel like I had really much to be anxious about.
Right.
Life was good, and I had, a good marriage, good kids, good business. But when you're not living your best life and living in your passion and your dreams and your mission, your
Yeah.
body tells you something. And for
Yeah.
me, it was telling me something, and I listened, right? I actually opened the door when it was knocking and
Mhm.
figured out. And for me, my anxiety went away, and it's
Wow.
still there every now and then, right? You
Right.
always deal with it, I think, but it's
Yeah.
amazing that when you're working in your passion and
Mhm.
what you're good at doing, then all that stuff can be eliminated.
That's so true. They say you can't work hard enough at the wrong thing. And so,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely right.
to listen to your intuition and your body, which is telling you something isn't right. We're not doing what we feel like we're put on this earth to do.
Yep. Couldn't agree more.
What do you feel like was missing from that role that you had, or the market in general, that prompted you to start Visionary Wealth Advisors?
I think just something that I was really proud of. Northwestern's a great
Yeah.
company and great people, and
Mhm.
still have friends to this day. They're there, but it just wasn't for me, right? And so
Yeah.
it doesn't mean it's like
Right.
any industry. So forget where I was at before. I mean, any industry doesn't mean it's a bad industry. It just may not be
Mhm.
for that person. And for me,
Right.
um, when I was able to raise the Visionary Wealth Advisor flag, if you will, and fly that flag, it was a sense of pride and a sense of what we're building and a sense of what we were doing for the clients and being on the same side of the table as the clients, and none of the sales quotas and all the stuff, right, that you have in huge companies. And again, great companies, but it wasn't for me. It wasn't in my DNA to be that person. And I fought it for so long. I was good at it, but I fought it, and I just didn't want to fight it anymore. So I think that pride and just the feeling, and Tim Hammett, my business partner, just when you go out and you build something from scratch, it's your baby, and we were lucky to get to do it. It's kind of the one time you get to go start something like that.
Yeah.
And it's been a good 10-year run. So we're just, that, I don't know if that answers your question or not, but that's
Yeah.
really
No.
kind of that awakening.
It's so exciting, and to believe in the unknown and to take a risk. And that's a big decision for someone who did struggle with anxiety. And it's this belief that, and I know you reference this a lot, like believing in a future that is greater than your past.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that's what this logo on the bottom of the microphone is, this F greater than P, right? And that's
Look at
achieving
that.
a future greater than your past. And that's
Yeah.
our mission as a firm. It's my personal mission. I mean, that's what we do every single day is we get the luxury to sit down with people like today. I sat down with a guy this morning, and he's got all this money, but it was his last day of work last week. And that emotion that you go through, it's like you become psychologists
Yes.
sometimes even more than wealth management, right? Because now you have the emotion of, I don't have a paycheck coming in. Oh my gosh, is my money going to be there? What do I do with my life now that I have to wake up and go to work on Monday? And
Yeah.
there's all those things. And that's what I love, is we get to help people achieve that future greater than their past. And again, doesn't mean your past was bad, but
Yeah.
now you've got a new future. Where are we going? Let's get excited about that instead of saying, oh, I'm on the back end, I'm retired now, life's over. No,
Yeah.
life's just beginning for him.
Mhm. And I think it's important for people to think about this. If you're trying to envision someone who runs a wealth management firm, it's so much more than just managing money. It is helping people connect with their dreams and desires.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. I mean, that's why I said it's like a part-time psychologist.
Yeah.
I don't have
Yeah.
a psychology degree, but I certainly have Kleenexes in my office, and
And
you have those moments, right, where you get into their. I always say everybody's got a Pandora's box, right? Inside them, it's our job as an advisor. We call them our visionaries at Visionary Wealth Advisor. It's
I
their
love that
job
word.
to open that box and get in there and find out really what's important to those people, like what drives them, what helps them make their decisions, and it's just day after day, getting to do that, and year after year now, 24 years, whatever it's been in the business. And it's just, thankfully love what we get to do.
So, there are a lot of people who want to take the leap there's a lot of people who want to take the leap to independence and start their own thing. I want to go back to the day, your resignation day, which I've heard you reference as a Jerry Maguire moment.
Yeah.
And for those who, I'm sure there's so much anxiety leading up to this, because you've been there for 13 years and you're taking a leap into the unknown. So bring us back to this day.
Yeah, it's funny you bring that up, because I wish I would have recorded more of it. So if anybody's getting ready to take that leap, just listen to me and record it, write it down, have those memories, because it is a day that is the biggest blur. Your wedding day is a big blur, right? It just goes by so fast. Like that day went by so fast, but leading up to it, it was the scariest day of my life. And My wife was, the day we resigned, was 8 months pregnant with our fourth child. We had just built, a nice new home. We owned real estate. I owned the building that our firm was in. And so, things had to go well, and it had to go it perfectly well, or it wouldn't have worked. And so I always tell people that are debating on this, and we've helped clients, start new law firms and different things and take that jump. And so I think it's important that when you do it, you have to bet on yourself. And the fears we put in our mind never blow up to the magnitude we put them in our mind to be. And you just have to take a calculated risk. I'm not saying just take a jump and don't know what you're going to go do. I mean, there was a lot of, hundreds of hours put into this thing, and late nights, early mornings, we would put the kids to bed, and I'd hang out with my wife for a little bit. And it's like, all right, I'm going to my second job till 2 a.m, and getting this thing ready to rock and roll. And that day, I remember like it was yesterday, and it was that moment of I had to go resign. And I remember seeing a guy that I didn't know. I saw him in the hallway. He told me a year later, he's like, yeah, I remember seeing you that day when you resigned. And I have no recollection of even seeing him. I was just in this tunnel vision of like, all right, I got to go have a hard conversation. This is going to be terrible. And I went and had that conversation, and then got lucky that I got to go back to my firm, and tell everybody that I was leaving. And I'll never forget, a guy in the back in the room raises his hand and says, what about those people that want to go with Brett?
Wow.
And I was like, oh, I mean, it's like, could have knocked me over with a feather. And so I wasn't able to say anything. So I didn't say a word. And then I left, and I went to my country club, and I got a big, huge circle table, thinking hopefully people would come with me.
Oh my gosh.
And so for 15 minutes I sat there, and not a soul showed up. And I'm like, oh, this is awful. Like, this is not going as planned. And I remember the first guy walking in and give him a big old hug, and he's like, all of them are behind me. They're all coming.
Wow.
And so we sat, and I was, at that time was able to tell them the vision and what we were doing. And within 24 hours to 48 hours, 13, 14 of those men and women made decisions to change their career and join us at Visionary. And it was amazing.
Wow.
Absolutely amazing.
What a moment. That's so incredible, Brett, because I'm sure you had hopes and wishes that those individuals would join you. But I can't imagine sitting at that table, watching them come in one after one, and being able to share your vision with them for the first time.
Yeah, it was amazing. I mean, and that just shows you the relationships, right? How important they are, because Tim and I built this firm with the hopes that these people would come with us, but we didn't know, because we couldn't talk to them. We couldn't tell them this is what's going to happen, and here's the vision, and pre-do all that stuff. And so this was literally on the hopes and prayers and faith. And trust me, there's many nights where I'd just be laying in bed at night, looking at the ceiling, like, what in the hell am I doing? But again, when it's right, it's right. And when you make calculated decisions, and you bet on yourself, and you bet on the people around you, and I couldn't have done it alone. My assistant Robin was with me since she's been with me since 2005, and she comes with, so it's just amazing people around you. But at the end of the day, nobody's going to give you a guarantee. And those people that are listening, that are debating on what they want to do with their career, again, my wife said, is this the right time? And, with her belly in front of her, with our fourth child in there, I said, no, it's absolutely not the right time, but we got to do it.
You got to do it. I was on a mastermind last night with Brian Tracy, who's written 94 books. He's 80 now. And he was just talking about the power of relationships, and how to treat everyone in your life as if they are $1 million customer, and just with respect, because you never know how you can help that person and where that relationship will lead. And I think when you're leading with integrity, and you have a strong vision, and you connect with those around you, it can start a powerful movement, just like what you're explaining. And I'm all about the power of relationships and building deep, meaningful relationships. So I think that's something everyone should focus on. You just never know where life is going to take you, or who you may see again. So
absolutely. Yeah. When I turned 40, this was 6 years ago, I wrote down the 40 things I learned in my life. And I said, which is funny now, because I'm trying to focus on saying no more, because you just got to watch your time. Right. But for the first 10, 20 years of your career, what my learning was say yes. Say yes to the lunch, and go have the lunch, go have the coffee, you never know. And did I waste time? Sure. I'm sure I
Right.
went to tons of meetings that nothing
Yeah.
came from it, and it was what it was. But at the same time, I mean, I've built some amazing relationships
Mhm.
in the last 2 decades that came from just say yes to the lunch.
Yeah. It's one thing I love about having a podcast is that we get to meet with people we never would have imagined having conversations with.
Yeah.
And I believe each person has something to teach us.
Absolutely.
So I want to talk about your podcast, which you have had for how long now?
Oh gosh, since February of 2017. So
Oh
a
my
long
gosh.
time.
Long
300
time.
something, yeah, 300 and something interviews. I think
Wow.
I did my 391st interview yesterday.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so
Congratulations.
thank you.
391. That's quite a number.
Yeah. And even that was scary, right? Like, who am I? Like, who do
Right.
we all have these limiting beliefs?
Yes.
And I think we all have them. I know I have them. I remember like, okay, I'm going to do this. It was a Tuesday night, you have a couple glasses of wine, so it helps the courage and maybe, thinking about it. I sent
The liquid courage.
Exactly. So I sent a text message, some buddies of mine that I know would be what I thought podcast worthy. And I said, hey, would you guys be open to being on my podcast? And they're like, yeah, you want to do it next week? And I'm like, oh crap. I don't have a microphone. I have no idea how to do a podcast. I don't even know where you record it. So I spent basically the next month of watching YouTube videos really late at night, learning how to do it. But I remember going to a Christmas party and talking to 3 of my really good buddies. And I said, hey, man, I'm thinking about doing this podcast. What do you guys think? And they're all like, yeah, you should absolutely do it. Okay. So I got the courage. I started interviewing people, and I was going to release one every other week. And a guy, Scott, in our office came to me and said, you got to do it every Monday. I said, dude, there's not 52 people that want me to interview them. Like, there's no way.
Right.
And now I did. So I started doing it every week. And then now here we are 391 interviews later. But the point to that is not bragging about 391 people, is there are amazing people out there. But again, bet on yourself and go do it and figure it out along the way.
Exactly.
I mean, I have Facebook posts that pop up, that'll show like a podcast I did. And I'm like, oh my God, that is horrible.
Yes.
The camera like moved and you see like half my face and like none of the guests, or it's staticky, and it was just awful. But I didn't care. And we just kept building it and kept doing it. And you just build it along the way. And so many times I think people have that paralysis by analysis.
Yes.
Right? And you just can't have that if you want to go build something and do something great.
You can't. With the podcast, I'm totally with you, because I just went through this and I'm going through it now. They say don't listen to like the first 50 episodes because it's a learning. And before I started, okay, who's going to listen? Who am I to share my advice or interview people? And you compare yourself to someone who's been in it like a decade or 5 years or 3 years. And you're like, how will I sound like them? Guess how they got there? It's because they started and they're hundreds of episodes in. If you go back to their first episode, it's nowhere near where they are today. So it's all a learning, and we're so attached to it being perfect that it stops us from starting. But it's in the learning that you actually grow and develop and improve your skill.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, I try not to listen to too much of mine. You do, I see the reels and different things, and because you start to judge it, and it's like, wow, I should have done this, or I should have. Just go have a conversation. It happens to be recorded, and it happens to be on video.
Right.
And there happens to be people that listen to it. But at the end of the day, I jokingly call it my weekly therapy. The stuff I have learned from people is amazing. And then when you get done hitting record and some of the stuff you even talk to after the show, I feel blessed to get to talk to these people every week.
Me too. It's a really special platform. So, Circuits of Success.
Yes.
Talk to us about what inspired you to start it, and also the key components of success.
Yes.
Key circuits.
So it's funny you say, I don't have it in here. I was thinking it was behind me. It's in my office. We built a studio now, so I'm excited. We have our own podcast studio. So again, it started on a little handheld thing, and it goes as time you dream and think and strategize. But anyway, so I'm going to go back, and this is what I think is also cool, is the Circuits of Success was created when I was, it was 2003. So 2001, I started at the end of the year as a financial advisor. 2002, I was the new financial advisor, like first full year advisor of the year in St. Louis. And here I am up on this stage giving a talk, and I'm this punk kid that doesn't even know what's going on in the business world, but somehow I pulled it off. Right. Well, then I thought, well, man, I'm awesome. I'm great. I've got so much talent. 2003 rolls around. I have the year of like, my wife would be like, "Hey, where's your paycheck?" And I'd be like, "I don't have one." And in fact, I owe them money for my health insurance and stuff. And she's like, "Well, you work that much and you have no," I'm like, "Yeah, no." And so thank God my wife is supportive. So I was sitting on our island in our kitchen in this house we had, and we didn't have any kids at the time. And I'm sitting here, I'm like, I'm a failure. I couldn't even go out and have a good year after this year I had. I want that year, not this year. So I said, what if I could fence in success and not ever get it too far away from me that I can't, it's out of grasp, right? That I can't go grab it. And I called it the circuits of success. And I had these 4 pillars, and then I would have a fence around each pillar, right? To build a square. And I had success in the middle, and the top left one was attitude, right? Like our attitude matters. And every morning, I have to get up by an alarm. Every morning my alarm goes off. I have a choice to make. I can choose to be a victor, or I can choose to be a victim, right? I choose to be a victor. And again, I had to choose that. Nobody else. It was my choice. It was your choice this morning, right? Anybody listen to this, it was their choice how they woke up. And what I found was that was the most important thing. I had never met anybody that had long-term sustainable success with a bad attitude, right? So that was the first circuit of success. And it was actually funny. An intern of ours at the time is the one that said, you ought to put a light bulb in there and call it the circuit, right? And so that was this defining moment as well, is when you don't have one of these pillars, the light bulb doesn't work. And so it's attitude, and it's your belief system up here on the top right. Your belief system matters, right? I believe in God. I believe in myself. I believe in goal planning. I believe in goal achievement. I believe in setting yourself up for success with people in your life, who you surround yourself with, the books you read, right? All these beliefs that I have. And so when my attitude's good, I get tested, my belief system better show up, right? It better show up and help me continue with that great attitude. But I can have a great attitude. I can have a great belief system. But the bottom right one is action.
Yes.
If I don't take action, it doesn't freaking matter what I believe, and it doesn't matter what my attitude is. There's a lot of people that have a great attitude and great belief system, but they sit on the couch all day long, right? And they don't do anything. And so I got to go out, and when they told me I had to make 40 dials a day when I was a new advisor, I would make 80. And I would do the things, right, that we all do. So people listening to this are probably successful people. Go above and beyond. Take action.
Yes.
If you feel that thing, again, I felt like I wanted to do a podcast, take action. Send a text message. Right? People want to be on the podcast. Oh crap. Now I got to figure it out. Go figure it out. Right. There's 1,000 million hours of, videos on YouTube to figure something out.
Yes.
And then the bottom right one is results. So attitude, belief, your action ultimately gets your results in your life. And so results don't just show up, but your results matter. And that creates a new vision. And then that new vision goes right back to your attitude. Right. So the things I wanted to do when I was 25 and 30, those are not goals and dreams now, right? But the goals and dreams I have today at 46 are much different. But again, I will never achieve those if I don't have a good attitude. I don't have a belief system that is to my core, helps me make every decision I make. And if I don't take action, I won't get the results. So that's the circuit of success and what we talk about in the podcast every week. But that's how we've built our firm. That's how I've built relationships. And that's really to my core. That's what it's about for me.
I absolutely love that, having a framework to live by that you use to help achieve success, and it helps keep you guided and on track.
Absolutely. Yeah.
My word for 2024 was action.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah. I like having a word to setting an intention. So whenever I'm pausing or feel stuck, I'm take action. You never know what's on the other side of that action. And there's a really great way to stay stuck, and it's by not taking action. And your reality is going to remain the same unless you take bold, messy action. And it starts to get really fun when you just start taking all this action, because your life evolves and it changes, and you move towards where you ultimately want to be going.
Yeah, I call it boringly consistent action too, right? The action isn't necessarily always fun, right? The things that you want to do. And I read early on in my career that, it's called the common denominator of success. And it says that the difference between successful people and not successful people, or the successful people build the habit of doing what unsuccessful people aren't willing to do. And I always like that quote, because it doesn't say they love doing the habit. It just says they formed it, right? So there's a lot of things I don't love doing per se, but I show up every single day and do it. And that's what happens. You
It's
get results.
the discipline
Yes.
of showing up. So I want to wrap up with some rapid fire questions.
Let's go.
And what's your favorite book?
Ooh, that's a great question. The Rhythm of Life by Matthew Kelly.
Okay. One piece of advice you would give to your younger self.
Trust that everything will be okay and stop worrying so much.
One habit you believe contributes most to your success.
Journaling. I have spent a long time, since July of 2005, when I started with my little black journals here. And I spend 1.5 hours every single week in strategic think time, to where it's me, a pen, and my notebook in my brain. And that's where I have come up with some great ideas. And it's just where I'm able to think and dream and strategize.
Love journaling. Brett, is there anything you'd like to leave our audience with today?
Trust your gut and believe in yourself. That is what I've seen working with successful people through a wealth management firm. That's, again, one of the great things we get to do. We get to sit down with successful people all day and hear their stories and how they built their businesses and their families, and all the stuff that's there is, it's just been cool to watch and see. And so then I get to, steal shamelessly from all their experience and then share it with our other clients. And then now with the podcast, just bet on yourself, believe in yourself, take action, and amazing things will happen.
Wonderful. Thank you. And where can our listeners find you?
Any social media platform, I'm on there. Most active probably on Instagram, Brett G. Gilliland, and on LinkedIn. But you can go to visionarywealthadvisors.com to find our firm. You can go to circuitofsuccess.com for the podcast. And then we also have Circuit of Success on Instagram as well. But you just Google me. There's a few Brett Gillilands out there, but you can Google me, and I'd love to connect with any of your listeners.
Well, thank you so much for coming on today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.